you felt was most appropriate to make?
Oh my God, I love that question. So let me say what 99.9% of people who sit in my seat won't say is that if your faith can't be tested, your faith can't be trusted. Doubt is a part of the equation. The opposite of faith isn't fear, it's certainty. And so sometimes what we falsely conflate certainty with clarity. Sometimes it's very clear what I need to do. I'm just not certain what it's going to produce. I'm just not certain what the outcome is going to be. And so I am very honest. And I think that's why, people give me the moniker, the people's bishop, because when I teach and preach and do what I do, the goal is to make it real, relatable, and practical and tell the truth. The truth is not everybody's not sitting up having, since you do it with your fitness trainer, I'll make it relative, having protein shakes with Jesus. Like that's not what's happening, man. Like that's not what we're doing. Like everybody's not sitting up counting their protein intake with Jesus. Like that's not what's happening. The reality is there are moments, and when you study the Bible, you see the crisis of faith that many people come in. Moses, I'm not good enough. Get somebody else to do it. Joseph, I have gone through 13 years of hell since I had this dream at 17 that I was going to be bowed down to my brothers and by my mother and my father, and I was going to be in this position of power. But for 13 years, I've been going through pure D hell, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, thrown into prison, forgotten about for 2 years. Like that's the real crisis. That's real life. And so for me, even Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, he's having hematidrosis. He's sweating blood drops. His capillaries are bursting because of the stress and the pressure that he's under, and it mixes with his sweat and it falls into the ground because he has to do something. He's very clear on what he has to do, and but what he has to do is painful. And so I think for me, there are tons of decisions that there's doubt that lurks, but there's a decision that has to be made. There's an uncertainty that's there, but there's a clarity where I'm aware. And so that's a daily occurrence. And I think recognizing that frees you up. I don't live life like an expert. I live life like a student. When you live life like an expert, when something goes wrong, you feel defeated and you feel discouraged because you supposedly knew everything. You knew what was supposed to happen. A student doesn't live that way. That's why even the Bible says, go make disciples, not experts, disciples. Disciple means disciplined student. Go make a student. So I live like a student. So when something doesn't go right, I'm like, okay, let's learn the lesson. When something doesn't go the way I desire for it to, there's a reason I went through this. There's a reason I'm in this. Let me get the lessons out of this so that I can make tomorrow better than today. But I don't work to make perfect decisions. I work to make the best decisions based on the information I have.
I think that's no, I think that was awesome. I couldn't write down notes fast enough. I think that's such an empowering message. To go back to what you originally said, I think oftentimes, like you said, maybe some people in your position, that's not criticizing anybody, but they can always be like, go to the Bible so you can get clarity and to help you make the decision, or pray about it. And that might make people think like, okay, I'm gonna pray about it until I feel certain. It's like you're not looking for certainty, you're looking for clarity, and then you have to act in faith with the level of clarity that you have, even though you still have a level of doubt and uncertainty. I guess, like, to maybe try to dive deeper, and I'm going to try to manufacture a question out of it. How can you get to the point where, like, you might be uncertain about, if you have a decision to make, you might be uncertain about a couple of the different turns you might make? How do you know when one thing is more is the route when you go down when you feel uncertain about both?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think it's this, is that whenever we're presented, and I love the last part, uncertain about both this or that.
Yeah.
I think the first thing for me, I'll walk you through the process that I take, which is a lot of people, especially leaders and people who sit in entrepreneurial roles, people, managers, supervisors, whatever, have a lot of decision fatigue. When your life is spent leading, you have a lot of decisions. You get tired of making decisions. So sometimes it's not that there is a lack of clarity, it's that there's just a lack of what's on my hoodie today, courage. It's like, I'm just tired of making decisions. And so if it doesn't seem easy, and I need to say this to everybody listening too, because I love even in what you do as a fitness trainer, is when you first start out, you start with a certain weight, but we can't keep you on that weight. We got to up the weight. It's not that the weight is less, it's that you get stronger. And I think the same is true even when it comes to decisions. It is not that the decisions necessarily get easier. It's just that you get stronger, you get sharper, you get, there's a refinement that comes. So for me, whenever I'm going through making a decision and I'm uncertain about both, I like to be a very data driven person. So I look at the data. And sometimes people, you're not being a fake person if you're living by data. That's not true. The Bible says if any man builds a tower, he needs to go count up the cost first so that he's not left a tower to build and no money to build it. So there's nothing wrong with looking at the data. Okay, let's look at the data. Let's make a very data informed view so that I'm properly seeing these things. Because maybe the lack of clarity and the lack of certainty is just simply because I don't have the right information. I don't know enough about the decision I'm making. So one, let's get some information. Two, with that information, I commit that to prayer. Okay, God, what do you desire for me to do in this situation? What's your highest and best will for me in this situation? And then third, I give them an opportunity to respond. And this is going to sound really, for some, it's going to almost sound antithetical, but it's actually biblical. Gideon, when he was unsure on some things, he said, Lord, okay, if it's you, I want you to do A, B, C. And so literally God responds and does A, B, C. That was how he knew. That was his sign. And so the Bible teaches that God is a God of miracles, signs, and wonders. Sometimes all I need is the sign that says, turn here. I don't know what's over there, but I got the sign that says stop. I don't know what's beyond this, but I just know I need to stop. The sign that says, make a U-turn. I don't know what's back there, but I got to make the U-turn. And so you look for the signs and then you make the decision, giving yourself the freedom to be human, that you may not make a perfect decision, but you'll make the best decision. And also, I'll just throw this in just to, mix it up. Sometimes there are things that what does God want me to do? And sometimes his response is, well, what do you want to do?
Mm.
The hardest question for me to ever answer, when we were getting ready to move our headquarters from Denver to Atlanta, we knew we wanted to expand to an additional area, and we knew we wanted to do lots of things. And I remember there were certain steps along the way, and I would pray, and the response was, well, what do you want to do? And I had never considered this because sometimes we see ourselves as being robots and not sons and daughters.
Mm.
And if you see yourself as a robot, every little thing, turn your head, look up there. But you don't do that with, a parent that has kids. You don't, okay, now go brush your teeth. Okay, now go to bed. Okay, now go lay down. Okay, at a certain maturity level, they know what to do because you've taught them. They're in your image, they're in your likeness, they know your principles. So at a certain level, if your 22-year-old kid comes to you and says, Dad, should I take a shower now? You're like, I don't know why we're talking about this. Like, of course you should take a shower. Like,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes as you mature in your walk with God, that's what happens. The response is, what do you want to do?